What's up, guys? This is Dad's Lives Matter, the first episode of Dad Talk. We're here tonight with my boy Ace. He's been through a lot. We've been through a lot. He's been a brother of mine for a long time, and we're just going to dive in and let him tell some of his story. So, Ace, I know you better than a lot of people, and I know you went overseas. You were in the service for a while. I know you had a tough relationship during that time period. Why don't we start there and we can keep it rolling?
So I joined the military right out of high school. I come from a military family. All my dad, my grandfather, uncles, great uncles, and it gave me a sense of a family away from family. It gave me a brotherhood, and coming from that type of family, I sought after the structure, the discipline, and just a sense of service and self worth of being able to give back to be able to feel like I'm giving to the ones that even hate me, the ones that don't know me, and the ones that I love. Being over there and the things that what you have to do kind of comes by muscle memory, but the things you see and the psychological part of seeing what these men and women will sacrifice for their belief, and the biggest sacrifice is they'll give their own children up. And when I came home, it stuck with me being young, and I was too proud to say that I needed help and all this kind of stuff because I didn't really know what it was or how to even say it. But it led into my first failed marriage, which was about 6 months after I came home from my last tour, and that kind of just snowballed into I was injured. I had two traumatic brain injuries. My right ear was cut off. My neck was shattered in a way that the doctor said there's no medical explanation on how I'm still alive, much less walking and talking. Both my knees blown out, 8 fractures in my back, but it was the psychological injuries that really pulled me down, and I could numb myself psychologically also, and I just pushed it down and tried to keep trucking forward, but it took more and more and more.
So, how did that affect your relationship with? I'm not gonna say her name. But how did that affect your relationship with the girl you were with during that time period? And how did it affect you coming home with the PTSD and everything else? How did that play in with your relationship and everything after you came home?
So you're the last one to see it, actually. Like, even my father did as a 5-time combat vet. He would look at me and say that my body was here, but his son didn't come home. And what it did is I was a walking empty shell and didn't even realize it because I still looked the same in the mirror. I still, went to work, went to see the same doctors, but I had no idea the psychological toll that I was taking on the ones who loved me, because they almost were in mourning for someone who was still alive. My ex-wife, the note she actually left for me was, "The man that I married never came home. That your eyes are cold and dead. That you don't get angry, you don't get happy, you don't get sad. You're just nothing. You're empty." And I was scared to face that.
So you went overseas, you came home. I know you struggled for a little bit once you got home. We met in 2017, so it's been 8 years now. I've known it's been a minute. Now I've seen you through relationships. I've seen you through marriage. Talk about your first experience with fatherhood, and tell all the men how your experience differs from a lot of people's, and how impactful it's been in your life and your family's life.
I got out of prison in May of 2019, and I met a lady that I had known actually in my drug addiction life, and she had recently just got out also. She was 9 years older than me, so she had 3 children that were relatively grown. They were 14, 18, and 20 were the older three when I first came into their lives, and then the younger ones were 2, 3, and 4. So the younger ones didn't even remember their father because he had been gone at this time for 3 years. As people see in me, anybody can make that turn and come back from it and come back to being the man that they should be. But until then, I had to step up and be everything that my step parent wasn't to me. It was a little difficult at first trying to find the narrow avenues to be able to love a child that you didn't create with the same kind and amount of love and compassion in the smiling faces and laughs, but also in the discipline and structure that a father is supposed to instill in his children. And it's really hard because when you have that bond with a child that you created, it's a chemistry, it's a love that only God created that could be there without an action. And it's an unconditional love. And so a natural parent can do anything in the world, no matter how bad it is, and a child will still look at them with the ever loving, just
That's your parent, no matter what.
yeah,
That's
no matter
blood.
what you
There's
do.
a connection there that's undeniable and nothing physical, and there's nothing in existence that could really break that connection. Whether you could hate your parent, you could love your parent, it doesn't matter what goes on between y'all. I know for me, when my daughter was born, there was an instant physical change within me where I was experiencing a love that I didn't even know existed, right?
Right.
And so for you, and we'll dive into it a little bit, but you haven't been able to have your own kids, and you stepped in on more than a couple of occasions and taken on other kids as your own,
Yeah.
and you've gone through a lot with that, good and bad. You've had a few ripped away from you, failed relationships, at no fault of your own, and I think that will help a lot of men to hear a little bit about that. So let's talk about why you can't have kids, how that's impacted you, and why you being able to step into that position has meant so much more because of everything going on.
I kind of assumed already that naturally I wasn't going to be able to have children. It was just something in me that kind of knew it. But I also had extremely low testosterone levels. Now, come to find out, it was due to my prior drug use, but also the chronic PTSD. So my testosterone levels were low, and I was on, I guess you call it pharmaceutical testosterone to bring my levels up so that I'd have the endurance and all to be able to work a full day and everything at 29 years old, because I was literally feeling completely exhausted, like I was an 80-year-old man, just like you had spoke, talking about a love you didn't know existed. I had always pictured myself, loving, I don't believe in the word stepchild, but that's what it is. I'd seen myself doing it in my head and all that, but actually doing it, it's, there's not a word that even expresses how amazing it is. The sad part comes from, you see these beautiful children that are now looking up at you with these eyes of just love and endearment and compassion, knowing that the one that created them is, for lack of better words, just trash. Care more about the pair of shoes on their feet than they do about their child.
Isn't that crazy? I will never understand that. Look, I understand, dads in tough situations. I can understand, a dad being in his peak, doing really well, and then struggling and not being able to give his kids everything he once could, right? But to make the conscious decision to put your kids to the side and put yourself first, and not even that, but just especially materialistic things like you were saying, like you're going to go buy yourself a new pair of kicks when your kid needs this or your kid needs that. And that's even on the lowest level. You know what I mean? The emotional side of that, the mental side of that, the role or the impact it makes on those kids, I've seen it time and time again. And I just don't understand. I know what I felt when my kids came out, when my kids were born. And I don't see how any man, number one, could not feel that at that same moment. But number two, feel that and then turn his back on those same beautiful kids that he was blessed with. It blows my mind.
Even something like, so at the same time, a longtime friend of mine, her daughters were the same age as mine, and they would come over, and I heard one of them crying one night. I went down into the bedroom with them, and I sat down with her and just asked her what's wrong. And she was just bawling her eyes out. And she was like, why can't my daddy love me enough to stay? And I started crying with her because not only is this a child, but it's a child that I was kind of like an uncle to. I was there when her and all her brothers and sisters were born. And over and over and over again were a weekend here, weekend there of just broken promises and straight out lies and just choosing everything under the sun over these little girls and this little boy. And I mean, I know the kind of love that I feel from them. And it is, there's not a word that can describe them, how amazing it is. Because I can look at them and say, I know what you're feeling. And looking back, hindsight's 2020, and I wouldn't take back any of the pain I felt or the things I went through because it's created a place in my heart that not everyone has. And it's a place of a special kind of love that was given through pain.
It's real right there.
My wife, we divorced and all, and we didn't get along not one bit. But the next serious relationship that I got into, the father did a background check on me and seeing my lengthy record and violent offenses and this, that, and other. And his first call was to my ex-wife. She pretty much said, I can't stand him. We don't get along. But that man right there, there's not a word to describe how good he will be for your children. And it's all due to pain and things in my life that I'm grateful I had to go through, because now I can give that to a child that wouldn't have got it had I not went through it. Or maybe a father that is like these deadbeats can see it or hear about it, and maybe it'll be a light bulb turned on, or their heart be changed, or even into guilt enough to get their shit together.
So if there's a deadbeat out there watching this right now, which yeah, I'm talking to you right there. What do you got to say to them?
They love you, and your words don't mean anything. The best thing you can do is either step up and be a man and be a father, or step away for good so that somebody can be. Because it's getting worse and worse every day. And these children, God's the only reason that I'm still alive. But stuff like that is what drives these kids to think that, like a little girl, to think that when she's 15, the only way to get some type of bond with a man is through some type of sex, or the only way to feel something that feels good is through drugs or alcohol. Or, well, I wasn't good enough for my daddy to be here and to stick around and love me and spend time with me. So, and he's the one who created me. So if I'm not good enough for him, I'm definitely not good enough for this man. So I'm gonna go with this one who beats on me and treats me like trash, because that's the way my daddy treated me. We also are a product of learned behavior. So just think about when you turn your back on that little girl, don't get pissed off when the man she's with does the same thing. Or when that boy becomes a man and cheats on a woman, beats on a woman, expects a woman to take care of him. You're the one to blame. He's not, because it was your job to love, to build structure, to discipline, and to teach.
All right, well, it's getting late and it's getting dark. Ace, I appreciate you coming out. This was the first episode, segment, whatever they want to call it, of Dad Talk on Dad's Lives Matter. We're going to try to get it out every week. Y'all stay tuned. We got a lot more content coming. We appreciate y'all. Men supporting men, dads supporting dads. Dad's Lives Matter. Y'all have a good night.